Mary Wollstonecraft is a writer whose work antagonized other writers of the Enlightenment period, inspired the Romantics, and whose work frequently called for gender equality, particularly within the realm of education. She is sometimes called the first feminist, the grandmother of British feminism, and the mother of feminism. This is Feminist Fridays. Let's learn about one of the great women in history, Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft was born in 1759 to a middle-class family whose fortune was depleted and mismanaged by her father, who kept moving the family around in hopes of making it big somewhere. Despite Mary's intelligence, only her brother Ned was sent to school, and Mary frequently slept in front of her mother's bedroom door in order to prevent her mother from getting beaten by her father when he was angry. And because Mary was so smart, that helped her figure out what life was like for women of her social class, which is why at 15 she announced that she would never marry, although she was wrong about that. Even though Mary was never formally educated, during one of the family's several moves, she became acquainted with a local clergyman and his wife, who opened their home and by extension their library to her, giving Wollstonecraft a chance to educate herself. Wollstonecraft's first job was to be a companion to an elderly woman. Later in life, she established a school for girls with her sisters and a family friend. The school later closed due to financial troubles, and Mary became a governess for a family in Dublin. That did not work out in the long term, and shortly after losing her job as a governess, Wollstonecraft began her career as a writer. Her first book, Thoughts on the Education of Daughters, urged parents to help daughters learn the mental resilience necessary to operate life independently. Education would become one of the major themes of Wollstonecraft's body of work. She frequently argued that it was a parent's responsibility to educate their sons and their daughters. Early in her career, she was also translating books from French, writing literary reviews, and engaging in various philosophical and political debates through essay writing. Then came the French Revolution. The French Revolution was bad for a lot of people's careers, particularly after they started beheading people, but it did offer some unique opportunities for British writers. Wollstonecraft's well-known essay, A Vindication on the Rights of Man, was written about the French Revolution in response to a conservative philosopher, Edmund Burke. Her political pamphlet on the topic of human rights as it related to the French Revolution helped Wollstonecraft gain real notoriety as a writer. She used her success as a springboard to launch what is her most successful work, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, which was published in 1792. The piece argued that women were encouraged to learn how to be helpless, and that made women bad at life and unproductive members of society. Wollstonecraft argued that women needed to take charge of their brains and demand they be educated as rational creatures, instead of being perpetually treated like children. Being educated would make women better wives, mothers, and citizens. Educating women would be integral to creating a better society. Unsurprisingly, Wollstonecraft's ideals weren't well received. Not because her arguments lacked merit, but because the male critics of the time thought it was inappropriate for her to call for women to be educated. Even though Wollstonecraft's argument relied on and emphasized the importance of the role of the wife and mother in society, critics called her a blasphemous heretic for even suggesting that women, particularly wives, were supposed to be anything other than soft, docile, and pretty. The thing is, Wollstonecraft didn't write this piece for men or for male critics. A Vindication of the Rights of Women was largely addressed to women. She was trying to talk to her peers and to tell them to not allow themselves to be treated as children when they are capable of more than children. Her arguments for women's education, for building and obtaining character being the first thing that every person should do, and to treat women as rational adults, would become the basis for modern feminism and inspired a lot of the first wave feminist movement. A Vindication of the Rights of Women would influence generations of women and how they view themselves and their place in society. After the publication of A Vindication of the Rights of Women, Wollstonecraft would move to Paris to better observe the events of the French Revolution. While there, she had a relationship with an American and gave birth to her daughter Fanny Imlay. Relationship didn't work out though. He left her and their new child and went to England to be with a different woman. Wollstonecraft would make 2 suicide attempts shortly after this. Both failed. Wollstonecraft would go on to write a travel book, and then she re-met William Godwin, an anarchist, and they would marry in 1797 while Wollstonecraft was pregnant with their daughter, Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin, who is better known as Mary Shelley, author of Frankenstein. Wollstonecraft didn't live to see her daughter's accomplishments, though, because she died about a month after childbirth due to infection. Her last words were that her husband was the kindest, best man in the world. She was then largely forgotten until the mid-20th century when her work was rediscovered by second-wave feminists. Thank you for joining me for Feminist Fridays and learning about Mary Wollstonecraft, the outspoken feminist writer who called for women to be educated in the late 18th century and inspired generations of feminists. If you liked this video, you can subscribe, watch another video of mine, or support me on Patreon. And you might also like videos from the new PBS channel, The Origin of Everything. The Origin of Everything is creating really well-produced educational videos about a variety of topics. And hey, I love you.